CC, what do the Cowboys need to do to get back on track in this one?
They got to get their offensive line. And I do have concerns. And, that offensive line is very, very good. But when you start watching individual matchups, they're not dominating. And my biggest concern is Tyron Smith, the left tackle. It started about midway through the 2016 season where he started missing a lot of practices. And it went under the radar because the team was playing so well. Dak was being protected well, and Zeke was running the ball at a phenomenal clip. But as you see it through the offseason, his back didn't get any better. Now, he peaked out in 2015. People consider him to be the best, the most dominant left tackle in pro football. Him and Joe Thomas with the Cleveland Browns. But 16, his play fell off a little bit. And in 17, people aren't watching him, but I believe that he has become part of the problem with Dallas and their inability to be able to run the ball the way they want to. You say, well, Chris, they run the ball well last week. Well, Alfred Morris had that big run. If you take that big run out of there, it's not the consistency. And why is this important? Because it helps out their defense. Their defense is undersized. It makes them play less football. They can play at a level because they're undersized, they can use their speed and quickness. So for me, watching the game, I watch how many times Dallas runs to the left, the Tyron side, and I watch how dominant, meaning how many yards per carry. Are they averaging around 4.2 to 4.5 yards a carry? And if they're able to do that, because I think now we get back to what made them successful. Nick gave the stat in week number 1. Last season, Zeke ran for 1,000 yards on first down. So if you watch this offensive line, let's start to measure how many yards they get on first down, and if they can get back to that clip, then they have a chance to be able to duplicate what they did last year.
CC, you mentioned Joe Thomas, and you mentioned if the running game was actually as effective as the stats made it look like due to Alfred Morris' 75-yard run. So I'm going to use a quote from Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas, a couple weeks ago, was talking to the media, and he talked about when you're evaluating the running game, you can't just look at yards per carry, because if you have a 1-yard run, a 2-yard run, a 1-yard run, then a 60-yard run, it looks great, but 3 of those runs were unsuccessful. He said, here's how we evaluate whether or not a run was successful. Did it get a first down? Did it get a touchdown? Or did it get at least 4 yards? Those are the 3 ways, and so then you have a success rate. So the point you're making is even if the numbers were good for Dallas last week, their actual success rate on rushing plays is not nearly what it had been last season.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, no. I'm just trying to amplify it.
Yes.
So, and your point on the time of possession is it is the most important stat for the Cowboys defense. It's not turnovers forced. It's not pressures on the quarterback. How long do they have to be on the field? Because they do not have the talent to be a dominant defense if they got to play 32, 33 minutes. Last year, they were second in the NFL in time of possession. So that means the defense played the second fewest minutes of any defense. This year, they're 23rd. Like that, especially and that's just against regular people. Now you're going up against a superhuman Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to tell you one person's name, because Sean Lee's not going to be out there. And we've seen this Dallas defense really struggle without Sean Lee. DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence has to have a big game. He leads the NFL with 7.5 sacks. Aaron Rodgers has been pressured the second most of any quarterback in football. That's the old, I guess, unstoppable force against very movable object. So he should be able to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have to, because I don't think the rest of this defense matches up against the Packers offense at all.
I just wanted to bring up Dak Prescott for a second, who we heard in the soundbite there talking about Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to be on the field at the same time as Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to actually play against Aaron Rodgers, but he knows what Aaron Rodgers does, and he knows what made Aaron Rodgers the quarterback that he is. We talked a lot about which Dak Prescott we were going to see coming into the season. The guy that came off the season last year, or the guy that's had a little bit of a hard time getting his engine going this year. And there were a number of circumstances why. I think this is the kind of game, defense notwithstanding, obviously they have to play, but this is the kind of game that if Dak can come out and have a great game, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. He obviously has Aaron Rodgers in the back of his head. A lot of these young quarterbacks do. You want to come out and have a great game against the Packers with a guy like Aaron Rodgers at the helm. This is a good statement game for a young guy like Dak Prescott, so we can stop talking about, hey, is this the same team we had from last year? What are they going to have to do? I like this game for the Cowboys.
And coming off of a playoff loss to Green Bay, where they had the #1 seed. We try to act as if, and we answer the questions, Jenna, when you come into the locker room and ask us, are you concerned about Aaron Rodgers? Of course I'm concerned. The reason why is because I know, just like last year, if I give them any time late in the game, then he can drive them down the field. So there's no point in the game you relax because you know the firepower that they have. So you put extra pressure on yourself because you know the reality.
How much as a player do you take last year's playoff loss with you into this year? I mean, are they thinking about that? Are they mad about that? Do they care? It's not like it's Green Bay and the Falcons where that team just keeps. Tell me about last year's game and how it relates to where they are now.
Well, there's not a lot of carryover from season to season as far as the team, because typically you're going to have 20 to 30% new players. But when you talk about a program like Dallas, with the young players they've had who haven't had any type of playoff success, they're the #1 seed. They're almost guaranteed to go to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers comes in there and beats them. So Green Bay and Dallas, they've had a rivalry for a long time. But now you can start to see this is a Dak, Aaron Rodgers rivalry. This could be a preview of the NFC Championship game. So there are other things that go into this game. Dallas can't afford to go to 2-3. And if Green Bay's able to get to 4-1, after a couple good wins and beating Dallas in Dallas, I mean, that's a tremendous win for them. One thing to watch in this game, both of the offensive tackles for Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, you talked about them getting pressure on the quarterback. Both those tackles will be back in this game, and this will be the first time that both of them have played at the same time together.
All right, so to Jenna, your point, Dak versus Aaron, even though they won't ever be on the field at the same time. Dak's had 2 of his best games of his career in games Aaron Rodgers has been in. He's averaging almost 9 yards per pass. That would lead the league every year. Almost 9 yards per pass in the 2 games he's played against Aaron Rodgers. He has a quarterback rating of about 110 combined in the 2 games he's played against Aaron Rodgers. And the Cowboys have scored 30 points in the regular season win, 30-plus in the playoff loss where Dak played really, really well. So I think Dak is probably more of a comfortability with Green Bay's defense, but he's not intimidated when he looks across the field and sees the best quarterback alive right now, Aaron Rodgers. Here is my concern for the Cowboys' mentality right now. This team was 13-2 last year. You talked about young players, don't know what you don't know, but this belief is easy, man. That's what they're saying to each other. You know, like this is, everyone said it was going to be tough. Dak, Zeke came in. This is it. 13-2, that's what we did in college. Like, this is fine. I'm throwing away week 17 because they didn't play anybody.
Yes.
Let's just look at the last 5 games they've played since then. A playoff game where, as CC said, you're the 1 seed. You're at home. You're probably glad Green Bay beat the Giants because the Giants are one team that's beaten you.
Yes.
And while if you're the 1 seed, you're not guaranteed to go to the Super Bowl, but you are darn near guaranteed to go to at least the conference championship game, and Green Bay beat you.
Yes.
And then this year, okay, you play a good team in Denver, and they beat you soundly. You play a good team that I didn't know was going to be a good team, but we now know is a good team in Los Angeles. You blow a double-digit lead at home. Dallas all of a sudden saying to himself, hold on. Since that 13-2 peak, we have 2 wins against a Giants team that was a shell of itself without Eli and appears to be a mess this season. And against the Cardinals? Like, we're 2-3 since then? We could be 2-4 since then, 0-4 against good teams?
And also, don't forget, it's not measured in wins and losses, but Zeke was also suspended. This whole I mean, it's been a bumpy road for them.
Right.
So, you know, it's not like the wins and losses, but Zeke might have to serve that suspension. But the nervous pressure that's in Dallas with the expectations, because they look at themselves as a Super Bowl caliber team. They thought it'd be a lot easier, a lot smoother at this point in the season.
Green Bay's kind of playing with found money. They already beat Seattle. They're 3-1 through 4.
I never believed that.
Okay, all right. Well, sorry. I'm glad I brought it up at the end where you can't.
The house money. You know when it's house money? When you get the money back to the house.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.